Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of the Philosophy Pupils. We'll be continuing from last time where we talked about why philosophy. Part 2 today. Last time we kind of looked at where the fields of philosophy applies in our lives. Today, as students moving on from high school, we'll be flipping the question around and looking at where certain field sectors that students might want to go into, how philosophy can play a role in there. So always one of the top sectors that were very popular as a job opportunity when we were looking it up was the health sector. And being a doctor, a nurse, even an emergency room surgeon. Guy, what do you think? Where do you think philosophy could play a role in these sort of jobs?
Philosophy plays a huge role in terms of ethics of healthcare. We see that in HIPAA with the protection of patients' rights. Mm-hmm. Is it the doctor's choice or is it the patient's choice, right?
Yeah, looking at what information.
It's a moral dilemma where, like, who has the decision to decide, like, on another person's life, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you're in the ER room, you have to make a split-second decision.
Who to treat first?
Like, what is the ethical decision in that case?
We learned in the biomedical pathway about the different tagging systems that people have, or that doctors have, of treating patients. But, like, they have to prioritize very quickly at a split-second notice. Yes. And it really comes down to who, right? It's from a glance. You have to think who to say first. And it might seem obvious, but of course you can think about why do you make that choice? The next one is coding, actually. The technology sector has definitely been jumping up recently.
Yes.
Coding has been a major part. You can see that in Silicon Valley as well.
Oh, privacy as well.
Oh, privacy,
so
yeah.
Do you have the right to give the information, someone else's information? It's also another moral issue here that we have. Another really relevant issue in coding is AI.
Mm-hmm. AI.
Where AI brings a whole bunch of questions into the mix. Like, again, we are touching on ethics, but, like, we also touches on epistemology. It's like, like, how are we going to code these AIs? Are they going to be, like, human-like existences, or do we have, or are they completely different existence themselves?
Yeah, I think we're developing better and better chatbots that seem more and more realistic.
Yeah.
They had, like, a Google voice assistant, so you could tell the assistant, hey, reserve me a spot at the restaurant, and it would actually call the restaurant and reserve it for you. Like, it would actually call and go, hey, this is John, party of 4. I'd love to reserve. And it sounds human.
Yeah.
It really does, but it's a completely AI voice. And apparently Google claimed that they tested it on, like, restaurant employees and stuff, and it worked.
It works.
So that's very surprising. I think not even considering the ramifications,
it's not even ethical.
Just the idea of AI in and of itself brings up a lot of questions. And I think we're going to have to navigate as we move forward. Next is, of course, economics, where we have to talk about being an economist. Where do you think that you'd have to have a full background in philosophy that would definitely come in handy as an economist?
I mean, the basis of economics is philosophy. If we look back to, like, Adam Smith, his Wealth of Nations, that in essence was a philosophy on how capitalism interact with each other and create mutual benefit from each other.
And I think before it was mercantilism. That was the reigning philosophy at the time. And that's the thing too. It's an economic philosophy. And I think part of the reason too is you have to consider the end goal of your economic system and what you want to achieve.
Whether it be
Adam Smith wanted money, efficiency, right?
Yeah, efficiency. He wanted it was to make money and creates mutual benefit for people through trade, right? Because you wouldn't want to trade something if you didn't think that the other thing was more valuable than your thing, which is supposed to create more wealth.
And then there's, like, command control, and there's command economies.
Yes,
where
command economies.
They take over. There's a centralized authority that takes over who buys and who sells. They manage the companies and stuff.
Yeah. And then that gets into the issue of individual rights as well.
And of course, where philosophy, a lot of people might think about it, is going into government, becoming
politics,
and going into politics.
I would define politics as an application of philosophy, actually, because what you're doing is you're proposing laws based on your beliefs, your philosophical beliefs, and I think that builds the framework for government. Because if we go back to the founding of the American government,
AP government,
in the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution, they're all philosophical ideas, like natural rights, John Locke, right? Those all influence the Constitution. So in essence, philosophy sort of influenced on how our American government was shaped.
Yeah, absolutely. And and the thing too, to say that there's the perfect system of government is obviously not true, or if it is, we haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
Because there's been so many different systems. So you definitely, I think I could definitely see politics as one field where philosophy is absolutely essential
Yes.
in shaping your policies and the ideas that you want to incorporate. Those were some of the fields that we had that we thought might be pertinent towards everyday life as students moving out. Moving back to our first question on why we did this special episode, 2-part episode. People ask, why philosophy?
I think it's worthwhile to consider, even though it may seem like a waste of time. I don't think it is, because there's so many ways like philosophy is applicable, right?
Yeah.
You don't even have to major in it. You could minor in it. I think the mindset that philosophy gives you is a valuable insight towards your job. Like, you wouldn't want a scientist that couldn't think. You wouldn't want a coder that couldn't think. I think philosophy gives you a different viewpoint than what other people would have. And I think that is very valuable in the job market that we have today. That's constantly changing.
Absolutely. I think everyone here who's been on the podcast has at least said that they were interested in exploring philosophy courses.
Yeah.
But absolutely. Well, that's it for today. The part 2, bit of a addition to part 1. See you next time.